Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is Lori Smith. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another Restoration. And good morning. 7:30 here in the morning. It's September the 11th, 2017. And just having a coffee, waking up. That song is from The Calling by Angel Wing, and it's put out by XL Music Publishing, freemusicpublicdomain.com. And I just think that's a nice song. I thought it was really kind of nice for just to start this show out. I used to never have music on the show because I could never figure out how to do it. And but I finally figured it out after so many years. And so that's a nice, I like to start the show out with that song. And so, yeah, hopefully you had a good weekend. I had a good weekend. It was sort of strange, but it was all right. Just a lot of smoke from the forest fires in Montana, and mainly from BC, British Columbia, the mountains right sort of next door to us. We're sitting on the east side of the Rocky Mountains and in Alberta. And the smoke from the fires keeps coming over and hanging around in southern Alberta. And it causes a lot of problems for people who have breathing difficulties. And you can't open your doors, you can't open your windows. It's been almost like 30 degrees every day, no air conditioning. So it's really hot, and then you can't open your doors and windows, so you're just sitting in your suite, just sweltering in the heat with no air, no oxygen. So that's kind of how we spent our weekend, just trying to take it easy so we weren't overexerting ourselves because we couldn't breathe, me and my husband. So it was kind of one of those types of weekends. It was a good weekend, but it was just, we couldn't really get anything done. Sort of just had to take it easy, and so I didn't get anything done at all, and except for just kind of keep a sort of half an eyeball on the situation in Mexico with that horrible earthquake down there, and then the Hurricane Irma heading up Florida. Sort of kept an eye on that and spent a lot of time in prayer and just thinking about those people. And so I didn't get any of my own work done, but that's all right. And I'm glad to be here this morning and get started on it again. It's Monday morning, and we'll just see how things are going. Morning reflection, how are we doing? We could ask ourselves, how am I doing on my healing journey? Any particular things I need to work on? How am I feeling this morning? And this is stuff that we can ask ourselves, if we're on a healing journey. And if you're on your healing journey and you're just starting out, you're just starting a healing journey as a survivor of abuse of any type, really, you want to make sure you're safe enough to be listening to this show. You do a safety check. That's what you should do before you listen to anything like this, not just my stuff, but anybody's stuff. If you think it might bother you or cause you to hurt yourself or have a miserable day or self-injure or hurt somebody else, you need to, turn it off and get some help. Find out, get that information. You can find it several places. I always list a few, but Havoca's got it. Safety First Info. Havoca, HAVOCA, Help for Adult Victims of Child Abuse, as well as a Morris Center program, AFCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a More Center program. They have a Survivor to Thriver workbook called, that's what it's called, the Survivor to Thriver workbook. The first chapter is called Safety First, and it's like 60 pages long. Huge chapter, but it's really worth reading. And you want to get that information to make sure you're safe enough to be listening. Otherwise, just turn the show off because you wouldn't be hurting my feelings at all. And if you're anybody else, you have to listen at your own discretion because the topics of abuse are very disturbing, really. Most people find them very disturbing. It's not a pleasant subject. So you have to know what's good for you to listen to, and you have to ultimately be the judge of, what's good for you to listen to, so you make that decision for yourself, right? Listen at your own discretion. So how am I doing? Morning reflection. How are we doing on our healing journey? Well, I'm actually doing pretty good. I was, I don't know if I had so much flashbacks this weekend, but I just had a lot of sort of negative sort of feelings, memories and stuff coming around. And maybe just because I was tired and not getting enough oxygen, just sort of sitting around, sort of a little bit of blues for the people down in Mexico and Irma. And wasn't really, doing all that much this weekend, so I did have extra time to sit and think. But I didn't really spend a lot of time in a negative space as far as that goes, and I wasn't really too down, so that's good. I'm making progress, huge progress. And but I didn't get anything done on my healing journey, so I need to get back on it and get started working on my workbooks and stuff. I'm working in a workbook right now called Wounded Heart by Dr. Dan B. Allender, The Wounded Heart, and for adult survivors of CSA, child sexual abuse. That's a good workbook. I'm actually making progress in that, but I've put it off now for months. Haven't gotten back to my chapter that I was working on, and I found it very helpful, so I need to get back in there and get started on that. And otherwise, I'm feeling pretty good this morning, as far as things go in my life and how I'm feeling this morning. I'm not feeling very much anxiety, not feeling any real depression, not feeling any horrible stuff, feeling a little bit tired because this weekend was just kind of, one of those types. Just sort of didn't get anything done, just kind of feel almost like I wish I had another weekend. But I'm sure we all wish we had another weekend starting today. But it's Monday morning, so we'll get right at it. We're looking at information from Help for Adult Victims of Child Abuse, HAVOCA. It's information for survivors. It's under that tab. If you go to the website, havoca.org, and it's anger. It's their anger section. And so far I haven't found it very helpful. And that's not to say that somebody else wouldn't, because somebody else might look at this and be totally like, wow, this is so helpful for me. Because we all need different things, and we all experience different things, and we all see things differently and experience things differently. So, what works for me doesn't work for somebody else. This action plan, this anger information here kind of seems to me like it was meant for people who have road rage and have difficulty if someone doesn't agree with them, or any type of anger issue. Suppressing anger, either that or just letting it out in a very abusive way, which we don't want to do. It doesn't really talk too much about the anger issues related to abuse, which are different than road rage angers, or being angry because, you didn't want to do something that your boss told you to do, or being angry because somebody's being a little bit haughty or snooty or hurtful to us, in our adult life apart from the abuse. But it's not very helpful as far as looking back at the anger that I had stuffed from years and years and years ago from being abused as a child. So I don't find the article all that helpful in that area, but still it's good as far as looking at anger, anger, what is anger management, how to manage anger. This next section we're looking at is anger action plan. Action, diffuse the anger triggers, keep it in or let it go, or let it out is what they're saying here. So this next part, I don't look at this stuff ahead, so I'm just looking at it right today for the first time. And so I don't look at any of my stuff ahead, actually. I do all of my shows, sort of, this is my healing journey. I'm working on it. So they say here, some experts believe it is better to express anger rather than bottle it up. They point out that suppressing anger can dangerously affect physical health and is frequently linked with heart disease. Other experts say that expressing anger makes things worse because it exacerbates the difficult situation and can have unpleasant consequences for your relationships, your career, and even your personal liberty. Well, it's true, right? Any of that stuff is bad. Suppressing anger, that's harsh. It's harsh on the body. like they said, it's kind of linked. They're starting to link it with heart disease. Over the years, just looking at articles that I've seen out there, regarding this issue, they are actually noting that anger has a lot of it causes the body a lot of problems. Um, so it's the physio side of the whole thing as well as the social and emotional side of things. If we express our anger, they said expressing anger makes things worse because it exacerbates the situation. The difficult situation can have unpleasant consequences. Well, I think we have to learn how to express it. That's what I've been learning how to do, and it's taken some time. Over the years, I wasn't so good at it for a long, long time, and never actually made any progress on it until I started looking in. And a website that I found was very helpful was angerresources.com, and Michael Obsatz and Dave Decker have a website there, really good. And I went through all that material. That did help me out to learn what is anger and that anger is okay. We do need to be angry. We do need to be allowed to be angry, but it's how we handle it. And we need to be able to express ourselves. But it's how we do it. So, certain things it's okay to be angry about, but it's how we deal with it. Whether it becomes abusive or even self harm type stuff, which is what I was doing. My stuff was all because I didn't want to hurt anybody else. So I was like, my anger would become self-harming. I wanted to self-injure, was self-sabotaging my life, relationships, and everything else. I still do some of that. I do a lot of self-sabotaging and things, because I'm always looking at problems with rejection and stuff like that. So I self-sabotage because of that. I'm still doing it. I'll probably do it for the rest of my life because I don't. That's my safety mechanism so that I don't get hurt. Because I'm so tired of being hurt, it's not even funny. I've decided that I'm not, and yeah, if we're going to be in relationships, we're going to get hurt. That's all there's to it. Because we're all people, and nobody's perfect, including me. You're not perfect. The other person's not perfect. I'm not perfect. So we're going to do stupid things. My thing is I own up to my stupidity. Doesn't mean I can always make it right, but I own up to it. And at least I take responsibility for it. I won't be around people that won't take responsibility for their stuff. If they don't own up to what they've done that's caused me any kind of, sadness or despair or difficulty in the relationship, they're just out of my life really quickly. So I have a tendency to be a little harsh on people because of the abuse that I suffered. Because I'm like, look, I'm not taking that anymore. I don't care who you are. I'm not going to allow somebody to walk all over me, treat me like crap anymore. And even as an adult, in any kind of relationship. I don't care if it's a working relationship or if it's a friendship or, it's not okay. If the person owns up to it, you can forgive that because you can be like, well, I'm not perfect either. But if a person won't own up to it, they don't have any business being in my life. It's like, no, you can't own up to what you did to me personally. Just as I've owned up to you, what I've done, to you as in this situation. You need to do that for me, otherwise you can't be in my life. So there's not very many people in my life, which is really the truth of it. Because people will not take responsibility for their actions. My parents wouldn't either. My parents never took responsibility for their actions. My mom and dad, my abusers, right? And my brother, he was so mentally ill and screwed up and drug abuser, the one who sexually abused me, he ended up killing himself at the age of 33. He was 33 when he killed himself. I was 20. So, nobody in my family ever took responsibility for what they did. This horrible, horrible stuff they did. So as an adult, I make the choices of who's allowed in my life. And only people who will take responsibility for their actions are allowed in my life. So my husband's allowed in my life because he actually will take responsibility for anything that he does. Because I do, because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes and I've hurt people. I've done things that cause people, trouble and pain in my lifetime. And I've tried to make amends, and by apologizing and admitting my mistakes. And saying, well, I'm not perfect, but I could try to work through this. And we could try to work on it. There's ways we can handle this stuff without, nobody's perfect. People are going to hurt people. If we say, I'm never going to allow anybody to abuse me ever again, well, we have to, of course not. And that's a smart move. But then if we say, well, if I'm in a relationship and that person, anybody does anything to me that makes me angry, they're out of my life, it's going to be a really, I'm just telling you from experience, a very, very lonely experience, lonely life. And that's where I'm at right now. Because I cut almost everybody out of my life. I only have a few people that I trust, that I'm willing to trust, because they've shown themselves to be trustworthy in my life, and the rest are gone. And it's like, well, what? Why? Well, because they didn't say the right words. They didn't own up to their responsibility in that part of the deal, whatever it was that caused me to actually boot them out of my life and say goodbye to them forever, right? So this is sad but the thing is I refuse to allow people to abuse me. And so therefore it's a very lonely life. But I'd rather be lonely than be a doormat. And I'd rather be lonely than be a people pleaser. I'd rather be lonely than, if people don't want to be in my life and own up to their part of the deal, they don't need to be in my life. So I haven't found very many people that are willing to do that. So there isn't very many people out there that are actually willing to do that. So it's kind of a lonely existence. Therefore, you have to be able to be okay with that. Otherwise, you're going to have to take a lot of garbage from a lot of people, because people are not usually willing to be responsible for their behaviors. That's why there's so much abuse going on. Abuse, that's the whole problem, I would say, with abuse, child abuse included, is that parents won't take responsibility for what they're doing. My parents were busted on child abuse charges, which, that's the thing. A lot of people who've been abused don't have any validation whatsoever. There's just nobody. They can't, people would say, did that really happen? And they don't have anybody that could back it up, because that's the problem with abuse. It's covert. It's hidden, right? Most people don't go around abusing their children out in public. And if they do, it looks like a discipline. But it's what goes on behind closed doors at home, usually, or someplace where the child is and the adult person is, whether it's physical abuse, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse, child sexual abuse, whatever it is, neglect. It's all going on behind the scenes, and that's why it's hard to bust these people, right? These people are very manipulative, very sneaky, and that's why they get away with it. Abusers have been getting away with abuse for, since time began. So it's really horrific, And the thing is like, my parents were brought up on charges, and they were told, you can't be treating your children like that. We weren't removed from the home. 7 children. Well, it was only at the time 5 at home, because the other 2, one left at 15. My brother took off at 15, and my sister got married young. She left the house at 17 and got married. And there was 5 of us left in the home, so they didn't remove us from the home. No, they just told my parents, you need to get counseling. You need to get counseling for yourselves. You need to get counseling for your family counseling. All of your children need counseling. Did they do it? No, because they would not be responsible. Then what they did is they continued to abuse us the rest of our entire lives until we all left or died or whatever, right? Absolutely horrific, But this is a situation. People will not take responsibility for their behavior. So for me, that's a big deal, So anger, it's a real problem, I think, for people. And this is much more than just road rage stuff, right? But what they're saying is, either stuffing it or expressing it can be a problem if we don't know how to do it. Stuffing it's always a bad idea. But expressing it can be a problem, too, if we don't do it right. So their conflicting advice does not seem to offer us much choice. Expressing anger is easier on the heart, they said, but you could end up lonely or in prison. Suppress anger and people will like you, but you may damage your health, right? Or I think it's just damaging all the way around, emotionally and everything else. Emotional health as well as physical health, right? Fortunately, these are not our only choices. There is a third option, they said, not to get angry in the first place. That is what this issue of active mind-body health is about. Dissolve anger. So they're saying the best way of dealing with the anger habit is to prevent it from occurring in the first place. This means to get to know the triggers that evoke angry feelings and systematically diffuse each trigger, situation's ability to affect you. So it's kind of interesting. Just don't get angry in the first place. Well, this is a weird take on it for sure, because I like Dave Decker and Michael Obsat's website, the angerresources.com, because these guys are actually real doctors, and they're not just I think they're work in psychology and stuff like that as well. And anger, you have to be okay to be angry. There has to be something that, if somebody comes up, let's just say, for instance, they're saying here, don't get angry and don't allow the triggers to even happen, just diffuse them. I think that works if it's a situation where, let's say, we're driving down the road and somebody cuts us off in traffic. We can choose to not be angry about that, right? Let's just say it's an issue where a neighbor keeps doing something that's just really bothering us, and maybe like throwing their garbage on our porch or something like that, and we don't like it. And, we don't have to become so angry about that. We could actually diffuse that and just it could be an annoyance that we could try to deal with, but it doesn't have to become full-blown anger where we're threatening that person or threatening to hurt them or throwing their garbage back on their lawn and throwing it all the way around, and making a mess and causing a disturbance. I mean, as far as that kind of stuff goes, let's just say you don't have to take it that far. That might work in that situation, but what if somebody comes up to me and hits me as an adult? Am I going to allow them to abuse me? What if I had a child? I don't have children because I was raped as a child, so I always let people know that, I was made barren by a CSA child sexual abuse. That's real nice, so I don't have any children. But if I did, let's just say if I had a child and I saw some adult come up and hit my child in my yard, am I going to get angry? You bet I'm going to get angry. There is anger that is right. I really like, go to that website. It's called angerresources.com. It's Michael Obsatz and Dave Decker. It's a great website. It explains anger very, very well. It's a huge website on anger. What is anger? What's okay about anger? What's not okay about anger? Abuse is not okay. So what my parents did to me out of anger was not okay. The abuse that I suffered because my parents were angry and being hateful and angry at me for whatever reason, that was not okay. My mother cracked my skull open with a rolling pin and beat me half to death because she was angry. She was mad at me because of something I said sitting at the kitchen table with her. So she beat me nearly to death because she was angry. That was wrong. That was taking it over the top, just going a little too far with the anger. And my dad used to do stuff like that, just beat me because he was angry. And the thing is like, that's abuse. That's wrong. It's the same as like calling somebody names because we're angry. That's wrong. Being abusive, that's wrong. Abusive anger is definitely wrong. But sometimes we need to be, it's okay to be angry. Someone comes up and hits me in the face and starts assaulting me. I'm going to get angry about that. And I'm gonna make every attempt to stop it, and then I'm gonna make every attempt to tell that person that's not okay, and I'll put a peace bond on you, press charges. No, that's wrong. You can't just go around diffusing the anger button. Just that works for road rage. It doesn't work for other stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's okay to be angry. What they're not saying is the fact that it's okay to be angry about certain things, and we do need to be angry about certain things. But it's not okay to abuse people with anger, become abusive because of anger. And so this material is kind of not, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really running their website down. I like everything that's on there pretty much. But I really don't think this section is appropriate for what we're dealing with. So, just don't get angry in the first place. So me sitting around, so basically what I could say about this dealing with child abuse is the fact that, let's just say not to get angry in the first place, dissolve the anger. The best way of dealing with anger habit is to prevent it from occurring in the first place. This means getting to know the triggers that evoke angry feelings and systematically diffuse each trigger situation's ability to affect you. So what about the situation with me sitting around knowing that I'll never, let's just say I'm having a moment and I see somebody with children and I think it's just wonderful. I get so happy for them. It's such a blessing. And then I think about the fact that I have no children, no legacy. And why? CSA child sexual abuse, that's why, because I was raped as a child. And the thing is that makes me angry. And you know what? That's okay. I'm allowed to be angry about that. That doesn't mean that I'm allowed to self-injure. I shouldn't be self-injuring and I shouldn't be hurting other people because of that. But I'm allowed to be angry about that. Why would I want to feel anything else but that? It was not okay what happened there. It's not okay that my mother abused me. It's not okay that my dad abused me. So this is a really bad article as far as I'm concerned for this website. What they're telling people is that, just don't be triggered in the first place. Don't get angry about it. This is an abuse website, so I don't agree with this article at all. Dealing with abuse, it's not appropriate. We're allowed to be angry about what happened, but we shouldn't be hurting ourselves or hurting anybody else. We need to learn how to deal with that anger. So it's never going to be okay what my parents did to me. It's never going to be okay what my brother did to me. Never. Not even when I'm, however long I live until I drop dead and fall off this planet. My body goes back to the dust and my spirit goes where I know it's going. Praise God. But the thing is until then, it's not okay for me to hurt myself or hurt somebody else because I was abused. That's the whole issue. I need to learn how to deal with it so that I'm not hurting myself and hurting others because I was abused. And so I need to then learn how to deal with things properly, put things in perspective. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to abuse and destroy just because we're angry. Become destructive, whether to ourselves or to stuff around us or to other people. That's just wrong. What they do say is, there's ways of dealing with it. I know for myself, what I had to do, I think probably the biggest thing to help me to get over the anger problem, which was causing me to want to self-injure, causing me I always had a lot of suicidal ideation because of it. It wasn't just the only thing it was the issue, but anger was part of it. And I think what really helped me out was actually allowing myself to feel the feelings, realizing that it was okay because everything I was feeling was validated. Everything that I was feeling was right. It was the right feelings. I've been betrayed. I've been wounded to the core for so long by the people that never should have done that. And I'll never receive love. never receive love that I was supposed to receive from my parents. And I'll never be able to have children. I'll never get that back. So everything that I was feeling was perfectly normal. It's what they did to me that's not normal. It's the abuse they inflicted on me that's not normal. That's not normal. That's not okay. So for people to try to say that abuse survivors should just not be triggered, it's okay, it's all right. No, we don't have to be okay about what happened to us. I think that's wrong. When abuse survivors go around saying, "Oh, it's perfectly fine what happened to me. It's okay that they did this to me or this person did that to me. I've forgiven them and it's all okay." No, it's not okay. That's saying that abuse is okay. No, it's not okay. It never was okay. And I don't agree with a lot of these abuse survivors out here, especially abuse survivors who are going around doing that because they're in denial. They're basically saying that abuse is all right. Oh, it's okay to abuse a child. They'll be just fine. No. They won't be just fine. And it's not okay. That's why I keep doing these shows. Because I want people to realize this is absolutely unacceptable. So we're going to have to pick up the rest of this. I don't even know if I want to do the rest of this article. It's too discouraging. It's not helping me at all. This is actually causing me anger. It's causing me grief. Because I think what they're doing here is wrong. Trying to get survivors to just neutralize their feelings so that they don't have to deal with the triggers. It's like, what triggers? That somebody abused us and treated us horribly? I think the best thing we can do is, first of all, get help for ourselves, whether it's counselor, therapist, whatever you choose, whatever works for you. Some people need therapy, need counseling. For me it was self-help and just reaching out through anonymous group support. That was very helpful. And, 10 years later, I'm doing so much better because I got help, right? Whatever kind of help it is, get it. You so deserve it, right? And learn how to work through these things and learn how to, if you need information as far as what material I used or worked through, you can always get a hold of me here on or you can contact me on Facebook. My Facebook stuff's there on my main page here on the Blog Talk Radio. And you can find my website there, Born in Hell. All my information's there. You can contact me if you kind of wondering what I used that I found very helpful, right? For my own healing journey, because some of this stuff this just doesn't make sense what they've written here. I do like most of the stuff from their website, but this particular portion of it I don't really think is that great. But we'll pick up next time on Friday. We'll see if we'll pick up more of that article or not. I might read through it, just move on to something else. I think this is not very helpful. How about Brainy Quote? Let's look at a Brainy Quote. We have about a minute left. Brainy Quote. They say you can use their quotes as long as you tell people where you got them. How about this one? It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Confucius. So see, it doesn't matter how long the healing journey takes. It's taken me 10 years to get where I am today. It's just so that I don't stop. So I love that. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Confucius. Right on. Have a great week, everybody. Take good care of yourselves. If you're struggling, I'm telling you, you call a crisis line, but you do whatever you have to do. You call somebody, you get some help. And we'll see you on Friday.
moving day's tomorrow. So, any chance I could borrow your truck? Hey man, need your truck at 8, not noon. Sorry, thanks. Bro, bad news. I crashed your truck. Could you come get me?
You'll do almost anything for a friend. At ATB Financial, we'll do almost anything for you. And until November 30th, get $350 for a new checking account and up to $150 for every friend you successfully refer. Terms and conditions apply. Visit atb.com/friends for details and to open an account.